Hello YouTube, Dave here again. Today I'm going to be taking a look at the Pathfinder 2nd Edition Chase card deck. This was sent to me by Paizo for the purposes of doing a review, so I do want to thank them for their support towards this channel. But as always, I want to make it clear that this is not a paid endorsement. Paizo is not telling me what to include in the reviews. They're not demanding that the reviews be favorable. They're just looking for genuine, honest feedback, and the opinions expressed in these videos, as always, are 100% my own, and the folks at Paizo are seeing this at the same time everybody else is, so they're not reviewing the video first and censoring or making edits. I just feel that it's important to stress that that everything that I say in these videos are based on my own personal opinion. So the Pathfinder Chase rules were introduced in the 2nd edition Game Mastery Guide, and I'm really looking forward to utilizing them in a scenario, in an adventure. I've always liked the idea of skills having more use outside of things just like, you know, tracking a set of footprints through the wilderness, or you know, like perception checks to see things. I just always like the idea of using skills as sort of a variant of a combat system to achieve certain goals. So skill challenges, for example, were something that I think was a really interesting concept, but they weren't executed necessarily in the best way. But I think with the chase system, it's more refined and specific, and like I said, I'm really looking forward to using these. The retail price for these are $14.99 US, so probably around $20. Get it to focus. Probably be around $20 Canadian. And then on the back it just says, the race is on. Whether you're the hunter or the hunted, chase cards make your choices during pursuit matter. Each beautifully illustrated card is in this full color deck contains an obstacle to overcome, from a deadly trap to an angry bear or a raucous festival. This deck presents complete rules for pursuits down city streets, dungeon tunnels, and wilderness trails, so you won't be left in the dust no matter where the adventure takes you. So there we go. All that's left to do is to crack this open and have a look at the cards inside. Alright, so we have the cards out, and let's go through them here. So the first thing that we have is just an advertisement card for some of the other decks out there, the Critical Hit deck and the Critical Fumble deck. Both of these are also really awesome if you're running this game. I've been using them in my Pathfinder games, and they're a pretty big hit. In fact, I've had players try to request that I port them over to other role-playing games, so those are worthwhile pickups. Just a little advertisement there. And then we have the rules cards, which we have two double-sided cards here. And these just go over all the pertinent rules that you need. So it gives you just the basic information, how to set up the cards and to use the deck, as well as how to run a chase, ending a chase, and not modifications necessary based on the size of a group. So the chase options in Pathfinder 2nd Edition can be used for a few different things. The different types of chases are pursuit, escape, race, or timed. So if you are pursuing someone, it means that you're trying to catch up to them, and you have to overcome these obstacles in order to catch up with the NPC or the group of NPCs that you're trying to capture. So with those, you are going, you know, against someone specifically. They would have sort of a head start against you. It is important to know that you can also clear or begin clearing more than one obstacle in a round, because you only need to achieve a certain number of successes, usually equal to the number of players in the group. But critical successes, for example, actually add an extra point to overcoming an obstacle, and we'll get more into that detail as it goes. But basically we have, you know, we'll set the cards up left to right on the table with the, in the case of a pursuit situation, the player characters would start on the leftmost card, which is the first obstacle, and the NPC would be a card ahead of them, and they would progress through one card, one obstacle per round, unless you have a more complicated or complex or risky obstacle or dangerous obstacle to overcome, in which case you may want to have that NPC or group of NPCs also make rolls to see if they overcome them, or either that or just have it take an extra round to overcome. So there are going to be ways that the players can close the gaps. It also gives you the length of the chases, so you have short, medium, or long, which just dictates the number of obstacles. So short would be 6 obstacles to overcome, a medium chase would be 8 obstacles, and a long chase would be 10 to overcome, and just an estimate of how long it would roughly take in game time. And yeah, so some great information there. And then we have our D20 license information, so we're not going to worry too much about that. And then we got the obstacles themselves. These are broken up into 4 different categories. There are general cards that can be used in basically any chase scenario. We then have urban cards, so cards for an urban environment, cards for underground, and then cards for a wilderness scenario. So we're just going to go through them here. I'm not going to go and read through every card in detail, but we'll just sort of go through at least the first couple so you can sort of get an idea of how these cards are structured. So the first one we have here is a general obstacle. This is a blocked path, and you have the artwork that shows exactly what's happening. So you've got like a bunch of barrels or things stacked up, in front of this door. This could also be a situation where like maybe like carts are overturned in the streets, or barrels are rolled into the streets, or like the idea of running down a hallway, for example, and knocking over a bookshelf or stuff like that. That's sort of where the block path kind of comes into play. It's obstacle 1, so this is a relatively easy one for any character levels to get through. There are different obstacle ratings here as well. So for example, some of these you may want higher level characters to go through, not just have first level characters or low level characters, but a lot of these are going to be relatively easy to get through, with a few much more difficult ones. So we have block path. So here we have the chase points needed to overcome it. So this gives you 4 because that's just sort of the default number. It's the typical party size that the game expects. If you have more than 4 players in the party, you may want to consider adding an extra point that's needed to overcome the obstacle for each player above 4. That you have in the group. And conversely, if you have a smaller group, for example, then you wouldn't want to have, for basic obstacles, you wouldn't want to have more than 1 point per character in the party. So if you had 3 players in your group, you would only need 3 points to overcome. So that's just sort of how that works. But you have things that you can mark with using these cards. They do suggest like minis or a token. So you just sort of place the mini on whichever point they have until they overcome the obstacle itself. So speaking of the obstacle, with block path, there are 2 different ways to overcome it. There are more options that the players may come up with, but these are just the default ones. They're the easiest ones or the more logical ones to use. But if the players do have an idea of like a spell that could be cast on their turn, or a different skill that they could use, if they can explain it in a way that makes sense, certainly allow them the opportunity to do so. And then you just assign like an easy or a moderate DC based off of what their suggestions are. But the ones that we have here are acrobatics to squeeze through the obstacle, or an athletics check to actually just clear through it, either just smash your way through or throw things out of the way as you move through the path there. So that's what we have for blocked path. Then we have cramped passage. Like, so I'm not going to read through all of these, but here we have this one which has an acrobatics check to try to squeeze through the cramped passage, or you can make a perception check to try to find a better route. So that's, again, examples of things that you can do. Crumbling wall, athletics to climb over, or thievery to unlock a nearby gate. And then we have, this is the last one I'm going to go over all the skills for, but we could also come into a situation where you just run into a guard animal. So you could use a nature check to calm it down, or a stealth check to sneak past it, or again, there's other checks that you might, the players may want to try. And again, as long as it makes sense and they can justify and explain it, then use these DCs as sort of a guide to assign a number for them to overcome. So then we have just things like hanging strands. So this could be swinging across a gap, some like a ravine or something like that, or just or just to swing across maybe a crowded area or something like that. So there's just different ways that you can use this as well. Of course, you have to have a good old-fashioned rat swarm, so you can either scare them off or just man up and endure the bites. Forked path. A refuse heap. A rickety bridge. I actually kind of like this one. It's another kind of staple one. But you see, you can use acrobatics to cross carefully, or you can actually make crafting checks to repair the bridge and make it less rickety. Rushing waterway. Slippery scramble. Steep slope. A smoke cloud. And then we get into a chasm, so you can leap across or try to find the nearest path across. So this one is obstacle 2, so it's maybe a little bit tougher. As you can see, the DCs are a little bit higher. We have 15 and 17 as opposed to like 15 and 13. So the DCs go up. So again, you just want to take the party's, the typical bonuses that they would have for their skills into account when choosing some of these. Then we have precarious beam, shaky ground, and collapsed bridge. So this is obstacle 4. So again, this could be a little bit more dangerous one to overcome. So we're getting into higher DCs again. We have 18 or 20. Spiked wall. Towering wall. Unholy sight. Religion to push back the evil, or will checks, will saves to hold back the corruption. And then we have collapsed tunnel, sleeping blast, and then we have a complex ward, which is an obstacle 8, so DC's 20 and 25. So again, you really want to just make sure you see what the DCs are before using these. Flash flood, unstable portal, up to a DC 27 check there. So those are our general ones. These can be used in pretty much any scenario, so they help pad those out. But now we're going to get into the urban ones. So for the urban dependent ones, the first one, the simple one to overcome, is a crowd. Of course, if you're in an urban environment and doing a chase scene, there has to be a fruit cart. I'm pretty sure it is required by actual law. There's also rickety rooftops, a twisting alleyways, a gang of ruffians and ne'er-do-wells, construction site, a corrupt patrol, a festival, and some elite thieves to overcome. So those are the urban ones that we have there. The next ones that we're going to go through are the underground. They have a nice purple border, so again they are color coded, which is nice. So we have a fungus grotto. Another classic, we have a pit trap, stalagmites, a fire rune, flimsy portcullis, a wandering monster, a pendulum trap, and a trapped corridor. And then finally, we have our wilderness cards. So up first we have brambles. I actually got trapped in something like this in brambles when I was a kid. Just like really young, wandered off and thought I could make it through, and I didn't. It kind of sucked, but yeah. So that's an obstacle that I can relate to. Deep mud, just a good old-fashioned downpour. A wasp swarm, tangled forest, of course a bear. It did say that on the back of the box, so they weren't messing around when they said you could have to deal with bears. A horrid bog, a rugged cliff, or a large field of yellow mold. So those are the cards included in the set. So the next thing to do would be to decide on an actual chase and to sort of set the cards out and to use them properly. So with chases, one of the things to do is again have the if it's a scenario where the NPCs are interacting with players in terms of like the players pursuing the NPC or the NPCs pursuing the player, you always want to have a pace that the non-player characters overcome the obstacles on. So for example, you don't want to be making all the skill checks for the NPCs as well, because that can bog things down. The default rate of progression is typically listed as 1 obstacle per round that the NPCs overcome. Keeping in mind that with critical successes and the players being able to choose the order that they go in, and being able to tackle more than 1 obstacle in a round allows them to be able to catch up. So, like I said, the next thing to do would be to come up with an actual chase to go through. So what I'm going to do is actually decide on a short chase. So it's just going to be 6 obstacles to overcome. And the idea is that the characters are going to spot someone that they've been pursuing. Could be an informant, could be a thief, could be an assassin, could just be a villain that has tried to escape the players, and they kind of, they spot them. And it's going to be an urban chase that starts in an urban setting, but it's actually going to culminate with scaling the city's wall and having 1 wilderness obstacle to overcome before the person can get away. So the ways that the chases can end would be if you're pursuing an NPC, for example, and they get 3 obstacles ahead of you, then you just lose the trail basically, and the chase is over and you've lost. If the NPC overcomes the final obstacle, then that would also end the chase. Or if the players manage to catch up to them, that can also do it as well. So what I'm going to do is just go through and try to come up with an interesting chase that could be done using the options available to me. And like I said, it's going to start in an urban setting and then move into a wilderness one for at least 1 obstacle. And so I'll just look through, and you can also do these randomly if you wish. You just take the proper environments. So for example, I would want to use, if I was just doing an urban one, for example, I'd take the general cards and then the urban cards. Be mindful of the party's level. So I wouldn't want, if, for example, if this were a low-level scenario where the players were first or second, third, or fourth level, I wouldn't want to be using the obstacle 8 options in here, because the DCs are just like unrealistic for a group of lower level characters to go through. So you want to make sure that the ones make sense. So I'm going to pick out some cards, and we will come back and see what I managed to come up with. Alright, so I've actually chosen my cards. I decided against using a wilderness-specific card, just because I sort of had a better idea of what I can use as the ultimate chase ender if it ends up reaching that point. So I've also got minis here to represent where the players are and where the person that they're pursuing is going to be. So this guy is going to represent the person that the characters are trying to pursue. And then this mini is just going to be used to represent the players themselves. So when a chase begins, because the players are trying to pursue the NPC, the players start on the leftmost card, which is the first obstacle to overcome, and then the NPC will actually start on the second obstacle. Now, the NPC also clears an obstacle at a rate of 1 per round, and he gets to go first because he's the one being pursued. So the scenario that we have here is that the character spotted this individual on the other side of a large crowd in this town square or anything like that. The idea for this one is that it's sort of on a it's either like a border city or border town, or one maybe in a sort of a mountainous area. So the player's first obstacle they have to overcome is navigating through this crowd. So the crowd, the ways to overcome it would be either acrobatics or athletics to weave or push your way through, or a society check to understand and recognize the way that the crowds just sort of naturally move and be able to follow the flow of the crowd itself. So those are the first options. But on the first round, our NPC clears 1 obstacle and moves on to the third one. Now, if 3 full obstacles separate the players from the NPC, then the NPC gets away. But we're going to assume that the player characters manage to make it through the first obstacle. So that's the one that we have there. And let's just say on their first round, they make it through the first obstacle, and then they reveal the next one. which is twisting alleyway. So he ducks into an alley. The players can use either society to recall the layout of the city streets on a map that they've seen before, or a perception check just to find their path through. So we're just going to advance them again. And then the third obstacle to overcome while they're going through the twisting alleyways is having to overcome a rat swarm. Now, one thing to keep in mind, we have these numbers on the bottom. So let's just say we've got a group of 3 players. That's the easiest way to sort of go through this. So what I would actually do is start them here, but as they start accumulating the chase points, I would just move the mini down here. So the first time someone succeeds, I would put the mini on the number 1. And let's just say the second player actually gets a critical success, which is worth 2 points. So I would just put them on number 3. And because there's only 3 players in this hypothetical scenario, that's enough to move on with 1 player left to take their turn. So they actually get to start through the twisting alleyways on that same round. And let's just say the next person also gets a critical success. So suddenly they only need 1 more. So there's ways, like I said, for the players to catch up. But we're just going to move on. So we've got the rat swarm as the next thing to overcome, but then they manage to make their way through the rats. Either they endure the bites with a fortitude save, or they can make an intimidation check to scare the rats off. Then the next thing that they have to deal with is, of course, the fruit cart. So the players, they're running down the city streets, and because they're running down city streets chasing after someone, the fruit cart has to make its way out, get in the way, and to overcome it, you have either an athletics check to vault over it, or just smash your way through it, because you obviously want to smash your way through the fruit cart. Or you could also make intimidation checks to get the person to move the cart out of the way. And then after that, the next obstacle is the spiked wall. That's sort of the wall separating the town from the wilderness. So the players have to make their way over that. They can make athletics checks to climb safely, or they can make reflex saving throws to scramble over while dodging the spikes. And then the final obstacle, so this is sort of like in a mountain area, I would say, is to overcome a rickety bridge. Which requires acrobatics to cross carefully, or a crafting check to help repair the bridge and make it safer to cross over. So those are the obstacles that I have here, and the ways that it can end. Again, the players could catch up to the NPC and succeed at the chase. They could, or the NPC could get 3 obstacles away. So let's just say they have a really tough time for some reason navigating this crowd, and our guy gets, past the fruit cart. Then that's it. There's just no way that the players are going to catch him in time. But even if it's a close chase and the players just can't manage to close the gap, if the NPC gets to the other side of that rickety bridge, you know that he's cutting the ropes and dropping that bridge. So that's an idea of how this works. So how you would utilize the deck. So yeah, I really like this overall. I think this is actually a really, really cool product. The artwork is really nice on it, which is something that I've come to expect from these types of cards anyway. Paizo always does a fantastic job when it comes to that. But I think that this is a really fun product to use overall, and I'm really excited about utilizing chases in my game. So if you're not looking to use chases in your campaigns, then this is something that you're probably going to want to pass on. However, if you do plan on running chases, these are really great visual aids that can make running these things a lot easier. And there's just a lot of cool ideas that you can come up with just by looking through them. And part of this is obviously trying to come up with a narrative, a way of explaining each obstacle leading into the next, and it's just a really fun product overall. I think that for people that are going to use chases in their game, this is an excellent investment, and I highly recommend it. So check this out if you are interested in running chases in your Pathfinder game, because that's what it's made for, and it does a really good job of helping out with that. So in the comments below, let me know, have you run any chases in any of your Pathfinder games? I do believe the first edition Game Mastery Guide also had chase rules, so feel free to tell me about some of those as well. Like, we don't have to keep the chase stories specific to Pathfinder 2nd edition, because there were options for it in 1E as well. So just let me know what some of the cool chases that you have gone through in your Pathfinder Pathfinder games, because I'd sort of love to hear some of those stories. And if you've actually picked up this deck and have been able to use it, let me know how you felt using these cards. I think it's going to be a lot of fun to go through and to use, and I think that they did a really good job with this overall. So once again, thank you to Paizo for sending this to me, and I'm really looking forward to using this in my upcoming Pathfinder games once I'm able to get them started up again with everything that's going on in the world. So thank you guys very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you next time. Take care.